Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Gila Monster Rides. Today I'm going to be putting on the Hagon Shocks, the covered Hagon Shocks on the Classic 350. And I already have the bike positioned, so hopefully I can get a good angle. Like the sun's coming from the south pretty harshly today. It's actually a pretty nice warm day in southern Arizona. Anyway, let me go get the other camera and we will get into it. Hey everybody, back with the more professional camera, and I don't know if this is going to be very visible for what I'm pointing to, but what I'm going to need to do is I've got this rack on here that's kind of getting in my way of at least the top bolt and like easily getting the rear shock out. So I'm going to be loosening up here and loosening up some nuts right behind here, or some bolts rather, so that I can move this piece out of the way. Then I think I should be able to get this this shock out and the new Hagon shock in without too much trouble. And then, I'll just put this hand. I have the right and left lift bars or hand grips on here, and we'll get those out of the way and get them remounted as we mount the top bolt back again. But I'll try to get a good camera angle so you guys can at least hopefully see what I'm doing. And I'll probably just only shoot the video from this side and wrap up the other side. It's just going to be a repeat of the second side. But I think it's going to help the bike carry that more mid-50s look by having the covered shocks. Now they will, it's kind of almost silly because then they're going to be covered up by saddlebags. So it's more, maybe more for my own personal pleasure, I guess you could say, of having the 50s style shocks on here. But I'm also hoping they'll improve the ride a little bit. But I have to say, I don't really have too many complaints about the stock Enfield rear shocks. These have actually performed pretty good. I mean, honestly, on the rougher roads around here, although I'm sure that my sprung saddle has a little bit to do with that too. This is actually, since I'm so lightweight, this is really hard to compress, but it has more give than the stock seat. Oh, and I just noticed I really need to Loctite these down. I'm already missing the bolt, excuse me, not the bolt, the nut on the end of that one. I'll have to go find a spare and get that put back on there. That said, it's not going anywhere. All right, let's get to it. First thing I want to mention is that before you start this job, if you decide to change your shocks on your Classic 350, make sure that you have a nice deep 17 millimeter socket and a 17 millimeter crescent wrench or spanner in the UK, because you're going to need them. It's sort of an oddball size. It's not included in all kits of tools, so make sure you have those two before you start the set. Otherwise, you're going to end up going and picking up both of those. But first, we're going to get this part off here. I forget. I want to say these are 10 millimeter. Let's double check that. Yep. I have a nice little set that's small enough for me to carry in the saddlebag if I want to. And I'm just going to loosen these up. And, and I forgot there's 3 bolts to this part. And we're going to put these in our pocket so we don't lose them. I had to wipe off the bike because I had it set up out here. I'll show you in a little bit. I have the bike on the center stand on a piece of wood so that I could get the rear tire off the ground just a little bit higher, and I had it set up. So I had started this job last Sunday and then got interrupted and hadn't had time to get back to the bike till today. So unfortunately, we got a little bit of a winter rain. And here, when it gets real windy, there'll be a lot of dust in the air. So it will literally rain droplets of mud. I have to be careful here because this is actually gonna remove this whole back piece because I've got it disconnected on the other side already. So we're gonna carefully support this. Just get that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is part of the Hepco and Becker rack with these two parts already put together. I'm gonna set that to the side. Put this back in our pocket, and then we are going to remove just this bolt so we can kind of get this out of the way. Well, that's going to be interesting. I might have to loosen up down here too, just to kind of pivot it down out of the way. Let's put our 10mm back and forget what size this is. I don't think I have a big enough. Yep, I'm going to have to break out the other set. So let me pause right here and we'll get out the right tool. Okay, so what we have here is a number 6 or a 6mm Allen key. Yeah, just gonna loosen this guy up. Doesn't really take a whole lot of effort. Oh, forgot that's holding the fender up. Come on. There we go. Okay, so pull that bolt, put that in our pocket. And I am gonna have to end up pull this rubber cap off of here. I think we're gonna end up having to pull this to get this out of the way. The other side's a little more simple. Yeah, that's definitely. Okay, so let's grab the right. I'm gonna take a quick guess that this is that might not be a 14, that might be 12. Mm, and it's rubber caps, so there we go. It's a little. Thankfully, I don't have a fresh. Huh. Yeah, it's probably a 12. Yep. Oh no, that's a 13. 13mm down here. There we go. We're not going to totally disconnect that. We're just going to loosen that, drop that. And then we can get to here and here with our 17 millimeter Allen and our socket. So let me get those and we'll be back. Okay, so for this guy, I have a, is this a 3/4 or a 1/2 inch? Anyway, I broke out the big, nice deep socket, 17 millimeter on a real long socket wrench. And so let me see. I also picked up these Icon angled crescent wrenches. I was thinking hopefully this will help me get in here, because this is a weird spot. Let's see if I can get in there. Right. Then we might have to come from the top. Hold this properly. Let's see. It's a really weird spot. Huh. Let's see if I can get into the back of this one. I'll do the bottom first. Well, that's actually smaller than 17. That might be part of the problem. Well, the top definitely, oh, there we go. I got the top. It takes wiggling it in the correct way. And so we're gonna put some good force on this guy to break that bolt loose. I'm gonna have to look up the specs on torquing these back down. There we go. So there goes our handle. That doesn't swing and hit something. Let's see if I can turn this by hand. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just loosen this up enough to get this off. But we're going to leave this bolt in until we get the bottom loosened up. Yeah, wish I had 3 hands. I don't like that bad. Even if I'm not using these shocks again, I don't want to keep banging this on there. Oh, you're gonna, oops. Well, there it goes. Have to find that nut eventually. Okay, we're gonna leave that in there until we get this one loose. Just gonna, oh, surprisingly, this one's, oh, that's a captured bolt. That's actually not a nut on the other side. Thought it was. Isn't it? No. Be careful not to hit our exhaust here. Oh, yep. Turning free now. Let's see if I can, yep, spin this one by hand now. There we go. So bottom's totally loose. Let's finish the top. Comes out freely. Let's put this up here and Being real careful with all these little spots. We're gonna just wiggle this out. Hopefully, maybe not. Whoops! What is that? I'm gonna grab my rubber mallet real quick. Actually, this might work. See if we can tap this out this way. Nope. Fortunately, it's too big to swing up, get around all the fender and everything. That is a tight spot. Huh. There we go. All right, just a little bit of wiggling and back and forth. Got it. So there's out with the old, in with the new. Now, some of you might think this is sacrilege, but I'm going to be removing the Hagon sticker. Let me pause while I do that real quick. Okay, now we're going to let's see here. Okay. Carefully, whoops, there we go. Slide this in. Well, that was easier than last time. So, whoops, put in the top first because that's going to be easier to hold. Okay, we're going to stop there because I'm going to lift the fender back up. Unfortunately, that's where that goes. It's going to be tricky. Huh. Mm. Oh, yeah, that one goes there. Okay. Where, where would that nut have gone? Okay, found our little backing bolt here. And this is the tricky part, is I have to get the fender kind of out of the way. Get this. There we go. Got that started. Okay. Now, I actually want to leave this a little loose because as you'll see, I don't know if you could, this might be difficult to see, but this is actually 20 millimeters shorter than the standard shock. So I've got to pull up the swing arm to attach this side. And I think I might have to loosen from the swing arm on the other side to be able to get my lift. So I'm going to do that real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, I've loosened the lower bolt or pulled it out from the other side. So now you can see my swing arm has dropped completely down. That'll allow me to maneuver this shock into place. What I may do actually is work on the other side off camera, get the, since we've already dropped the wheel all together for these sides, I might as well just go ahead and get this shock on the other side and we'll go from there. All right, now we have the other side to the point where we have this, where this is still somewhat loose. I'm actually gonna, let's get this. See if we get this. Yeah, there we go. We're gonna snug this up just a tiny bit more. So we can position this straight up, but our shock is relatively hanging loose. Then what I should be able to do is from both sides, I'm going to grab the rear wheel and I'm going to lift up and hopefully get both of these shocks in place. Let's see if I can pull this off, doing some sitting on the ground doing some yoga. So I'm gonna get a foot on each side, lift the wheel, get my foot underneath it. Here we go. I've just got my foot underneath it. I don't know if you can see that, to hold it up in the right place. It's going into that captured nut. Do the same thing to the other side, hopefully. Let's see. Might have to actually. Uh-oh. Try this again. Have to loosen this up. The other one wasn't positioned quite right. I was paying attention to one side and not the other. So loosen this guy back up. Come on. There we go. All right, now, there we go. Now I've got the other side. And I might have to have two hands to do this because or let's see. Man. Yep. Probably gonna have to go grab a third hand or get something underneath the wheel. Give me a sec. Maybe a handy dandy piece of wood. See if we can make that work. Okay, so that's somewhat in place. Okay. More. Okay. That's pretty close. Now what I can do is get my foot underneath that wood to lift. That gives me some leverage. Not quite enough. There we go. Okay, one side. Second side. I think we have achieved success. Maybe. Make sure on this right side. Yeah, there we go. Maybe. All right. Yep. All right, so I'm going to tighten these up real quick and I'll be back. All right, we got the top, the bottom on the other side snug. So let's just double check our fit here. I think that is still in the threading. I'm going to be banging that. There we go. Now I'm just going to snug these up real good. We're going to torque these down later. Okay. So there we go on that side. This is upright. So I'm going to, that's filthy. What are we going to do? Oh yeah, we're going to grab the 17 millimeter angled crescent wrench. Man, I'm glad I picked these up the other night. I got a whole set of metrics because having that angled head, there we go, allows you to come in at some odd angles. So snug this guy up. Oh, there goes the fender. Fender's not attached to this bolt, so it's just kind of free right now. Oh, we're gonna get a nice and snug. Man, those look good. All right, now we need to line up these fender bolts. Just gonna be a little bit of a chore. Man, I should really get a rag and clean under the fender while I've got it loose. Now the tricky part is going to be on both sides. Now I've got this piece of the Hepco and Becker rack back up, and on the stock model you would just have a shorter, different bolt here, but this one has to go through this kind of brace for the so the tricky part is going to be lining up two parts of the fender with that thing. That's too big. Let's see. And it's hard to see where this goes through with all this stuff in the way. And it seems like the front of this fender needs to come up, but I'm not sure how. So it goes forward, and it seems like it needs to come up. Oh, I see. Okay. So pull that out a little bit. Same on the side because it's going to kind of be in the way. So I'm lifting both sides. It seems like something is in the way. Okay. Let me fiddle around with something and I'll come back. Deep breath. There were a lot of F-bombs dropped trying to realign the top bolts to the rear fender. And it just ended up completely disconnecting the lower ones. So I had the most maneuverability to get to the top fenders. Unfortunately, taking off this bolt, out this bolt that does go to the fender, was the only way I was going to get to the top and bottom of this shock. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it this way. If there hadn't been anything in the way, I would have been able to leave the fender alone, but it is what it is with this rack system. But I now have the fender realigned on the top. I'm just going to snug this down a little bit. This is the 6mm bolt. I'm not going to like crank on this because I still have to align the bottom, but that shouldn't be quite as big of a deal. So, okay, so that actually, let me back that off just a little bit so I have a little bit of looseness in this whole thing. And then it's probably going to be a whole another, yeah, it's going to take some work to get both of these lower bolts done again. Oh, and I think I lost one of them. Oh, nope, there it is. Okay. Luckily, this is a captured nut, so it's really not so much this part as the whole fender stay. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah. And you guys don't want to hear me drop a ton of F-bombs, I don't think. There we go. Let's find my 12mm. Make sure we got this to tighten. Nope, it's not loosen. There we go. Hopefully I'm not making any mistakes as far as I never really set, because I needed to get the fender on. I didn't really set like a preload on the shocks. Plus, I just want to see what they're like as is. There we go. That's snug it up. There we go. Okay. Get that nice and snug. We'll torque these down in a little bit. Let's see. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So there's that. Gonna do the other side real quick and wrapped up this video. There we go, guys. That is the Hagon Shock mounted. Now, there's a bunch of garbage in the way. Kind of almost makes me think it'd be nice to get rid of the rack, get rid of the pillion seat, just run with the shock itself. But I'm gonna go for a quick spin and I'm gonna let you know how they feel. All right, everybody. So I have just got back from the test ride, more or less. Although I did end up putting on the Hepco and Becker, the back part of the mount, get this all secure. And I'm gonna put the bags back on the bike, the little scout bags, the scout bobber bags, actually. Test rode just fine. Felt pretty close to stock, honestly. Maybe just a tiny bit stiffer. So I did come in with a 4mm Allen screw and just I did a half turn, total of a half turn on each side to loosen the dampening. It's not, probably not quite the right wording, but I think you get what I mean. There's, I think this is on the lowest setting I can go as far as softness. So I'm not sure that there's going to be much happening there. We'll see. I mean, it's perfectly acceptable where it's at. And I am going to be loading it up with a little bit of weight, at times. So I'm fine having it a little on the stiffer side. It's probably, these were generic. These weren't made by Hagon for me. So they're probably set up for a little bit of a heavier rider. But like I said, that's fine because I'm probably going to be, loading up the saddlebags a little bit, things like that. Going on a ride with the wife, riding pillion, and yeah, I enjoyed it. Enjoyed the little test ride. It's still a little cool. When you're sitting still, it's fine, but with like a real light jacket, it's kind of cool when you get up to like 50 miles an hour. And I hope wherever you're at, it is warm enough to get out for a ride. Please hit the subscribe button and hit the notifications bell if you want to see more videos like this. Hopefully this one wasn't too all over the place. I hope it was easy to follow what I was doing with the shocks. And coming up, we have the big bore install. So we've done the tack, we've done the shocks with the big bore install, and I'll be installing new tires. All right. Everybody have a great day. Thanks.